Hi guys, I just wanted to mention some other GUI toolkits for Python. So I just wanted to make this additional video for this lesson. So extending the GUI lesson. So there are many GUI toolkits around, ranging from the very specific native toolkits for Windows, Mac OS X and X Windows, to more generic platform toolkits. Most of them have a wrapper layer of some kind available for Python. They all have the same core ideas and concepts that you saw in Tkinter, although some require an object-based approach, while others, like Tkinter, permit a procedural style of programming too. If Tkinter is not working for you, or if your main area of interest is GUI development, then these other toolkits may hold the answer. In the following section, you find out about the strengths and weaknesses of each. And for the platform independent toolkits, a very short hello world style program, if you look at the documentation. So if you want to run these, you need to install the toolkits because they are all provided by third parties. That having been said, there are no absolute best or worst toolkits here. Each has its fans and different programmers prefer different toolkits. It is worth taking some time to try out each toolkit of interest and at least work through their introductory tutorial to see whether it fits your personal style of coding. There are also some useful online videos that introduce their features too. The first one we are going to talk about is WX Python or VX Python. This is a long-standing toolkit that is a wrapper around C++ WX widget project. VX widgets is a C++ toolkit designed to work on all the popular operating systems while maintaining a native look and feel. Version 3.0 of VX Python was released late in 2013. It has a rich set of widgets and powerful features supporting things like cross-platform printing. Printing from a GUI is one of those functions that sounds like it should be easy, but very rarely is. There are some graphical GUI building tools that can generate code for you, or you can do everything by hand by crafting the code, as you did for Tkinter. While VX Python is powerful, it is still much simpler than some of the other toolkits discussed here. There are active mailing lists and forums for both VX widgets and VX Python. There are a couple of books available on VX Python, including one written by the lead developer. The VX Python website is at www.vxpython.org. So definitely check that out. And the next GUI framework is PyQt. The Qt toolkit came to prominence in the development of the KDE desktop environment for Linux, although it had been developed some time before that as a commercial product. Over time, the licensing arrangements of Qt have been simplified such that it is now widely used in open source projects and supports most operating systems with a native look and feel. Qt is a C++ toolkit, and PyQt is the Python wrapper around that. Version 5.2 was released in early 2014. To give some idea of the scale, Qt has more than 400 classes available and several thousand functions and methods. The learning curve is considerable, but so it's the power. Some advanced features are available only to commercial users who pay license fees. And this mixed mode of free and licensed software is probably the biggest drawback of Qt and hence PyQt. There is a full-featured graphical GUI building toolkit for PyQt. A true open-source LGPL alternative has been released in the form of PySide that offers similar functionality to PyQt and was developed by Nokia while they owned the Qt toolkit. Version 1.1 of PySide was released in mid-2013. And there are at least 2 books available on PyQt programming. So the PyQt and PySide are very similar in their use. And next you have PyGTK, and it's the GIMP toolkit, or GTK Plus as it's now known. And it was originally developed in C as the GUI toolset for the GNU GIMP graphics editor. It then developed into a generic graphical toolkit and has become the toolkit behind the GNOME desktop environment used on many Linux distributions. The PyGTK is the name used for Python wrapper around the GTK Plus toolkit. However, the situation has become more complex, and there are several parts to PyGTK matching the various parts of GTK Plus itself. PyGObjects is now the official module supporting most of the GNOME software platform, including the GUI. As part of the GNU stable, it is an open source project, so it has no complex license issues to contend with. New versions are released regularly. There is a graphical design tool called Glade that can be used to create GUI. In typical GNU fashion, the documentation is comprehensive but not tailored to beginners. The system is very powerful and multi-platform. Once installed, it is reasonably simple to use. There are several books on GTK Plus programming, but they are focused on the underlying C API, not on the Python bindings. So there is also an online and excellent documentation online. And then you have native GUIs, Cocoa and Win32. Cocoa and Win32 are the native GUI toolkits for the Mac OS X and Windows operating systems respectively. Both can be programmed from Python. The PyObjC toolkit for Cocoa is provided by the Mac Python project, and the native Mac OS X development tools can be used to create and connect the GUI to code. You have already met the Win32 package back in section 2, where its ability to expose the Win32 API was discussed. The Win32 API is not only about low-level Windows functions, but it also has all the functions used to build Windows native GUIs. The mechanisms are the same, you just call different functions. The disadvantages to both these toolkits, especially the Win32 API, is the complexity involved combined with the fact that they are strictly limited to their own operating system. If you know that you will never need to support anything else, that may be not a problem. The Cocoa option does at least provide a useful set of development tools, but the Windows option is not so richly endowed. A far better option for the native Windows development is the use of IronPython. This is a version of Python written in Microsoft.NET and supported on Microsoft's Visual Studio development environment as a standard .NET language. This gives access to all the .NET functionality but is limited to Windows. There is a .NET clone for other platforms known as Mono, but it is not widely used for desktop applications. So check the MacPython and IronPython websites for more information if you want to dive more into this. And the last one is Dabo. Dabo is rather different from the other toolkits described in that it is more than just a GUI toolkit. Dabo is a fully featured application framework and toolset. It specializes in database applications such as those commonly found in businesses. It comes with a set of GUI widgets, currently based on VX Widgets Foundation but modified for Dabo. Theoretically, another GUI toolkit could be used, but the development team has found more productive ways to spend its time. On top of the GUI, it provides a set of classes that contains the business logic and bridges the gap between the user interface and data layer. The data layer can be any of half a dozen databases, including SQLite. It is possible to build complex logic into a Dabo application, although its natural home is in building forms-based tools that provide a view and editing capability to the base data. And version 0.9.12 was released in June 2013. The Dabo website is found at www.dabodev.com. So I recommend to check that one out. I found it very interesting to use with data-driven applications. So we have now covered a fair amount of ground, especially regarding user interface options. You now look at some other issues that we'll likely meet in building real-world desktop applications in Python. Storing configuration data and localization, and that's in the next lesson. So I hope you enjoyed it so far. See you in the next lesson.